Apologize for being late. Senator Hickman and myself were in a retirement meeting, and it's that time of year that we know what happens. Senator Albers, if you would do an invocation for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please bow your heads. Lord, thank you for this day. As days get busier and longer, we just ask you give us your grace, give us your favor, give us your wisdom. And Lord, we just ask that you bless all those who come in and out of this building as we do the people's work. For it's your most holy name we make our prayer. Amen.
So first of all, I know there was some discussion about the population bill. Have those been satisfied? Are we good with that, I think? But so Representative Crow will go ahead and hear your bill if he's here. I don't know that we need any more testimony per se on it, but just in case anybody has any questions on that, we were good with it except for the constitutional question that we had. So that's going to be House Bill 896. Let's pull it out right here. And we're working off LC 432151. So if there's more discussion, we can have it. If we're ready to make a motion, someone can make a motion too.
Sure. I got LC 343252S.
Okay, let me pull one out and make sure here.
There's always a chance I got the wrong one too. Nope. Sorry. 432151. I apologize.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Like he said.
That was a 2012 version I had pulled out over here. So
All right.
when it was done, that was LC number 2012.
Well,
when it was
let's
done.
get going so we don't take your other House members' time. Is there a motion?
Move you pass, Mr. Chairman.
Got a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Representative Williamson, are you here?
Yes, sir.
All right. I think there've been a couple of questions on yours as well, but does anybody have any further questions on that bill? And let me go to that one. We're talking about LC. This is House Bill 1058, LC 500350 ERS.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, unless there's any, we had the hearing already on this. Unless there's any other questions that came up, we'll entertain a motion. So Senator Albers has made a motion. Is there a second? Second by Senator Hickman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Senator Hickman if he would consider carrying the bill. Thank you.
Move to reconsider, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Okay, I think Senator Gooch was supposed to be here on one of these and I don't see him here, so we will not do that one. Representative Leverett is testifying in the retirement committee. I just left, so I don't believe he's over here yet. So we'll move on. Actually, let's see here. We'll move on to House Bill 1034. I don't believe we've got Representative, where you've been here. I don't think you've been here on this bill though, have you? So go ahead and let me give the LC number. It's LC 500292, and that is House Bill 1034. If you'd like to make a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As he said, this is House Bill 1034, LC 500292. This bill simply adds the FIFA World Cup soccer matches to the list of major non-reoccurring sporting events that we offer up a incentive, which is merely the suspension of the sales tax on just the tickets to any of the events. We are in the running for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And we would like to obviously try to land that. What is really significant about this is we don't risk any tax dollars because if they don't select us We have not spent a dime trying to acquire this. It can be upwards of $400 million to our state. The other thing that does on line 34, it extends the date out to 3031. There's been a question or two about that.
Yep.
We're in the running for the 2029 Final Four. When you think about how far out some of these events are being planned, that is what necessitates that moving out. We obviously cushion that by a year or two. There is a potentially World Rugby beyond that we're looking at. What I would say to the date, again, there are definitely tax credits out there. We're spending dollars that I think definitely could need some guardrails on how far certain things go. I would again state that with this risking no state taxpayer dollars and merely giving an opportunity, I look at it like a real estate transaction in the hot market that we're in right now. If I'm going to put in an offer on a house, I got to do something to just give an opportunity to make our offer look a little bit better. And that's how I see this bill. But I'll stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Albers, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative. Isn't it true that these have an enormous economic impact for tourism, hotels, lodging, as well as a big impact to our small businesses?
It absolutely does. And here's what's very different with the FIFA World Cup. Super Bowl, huge economic impact, $100 million, but they're here for a weekend. Let's just suggest that we actually land the international broadcasting for the FIFA World Cup. Those folks are here for 6 months, and we never even sell one single ticket. We don't actually spend a single taxpayer dollar or exempt a single dollar on these tickets because we wouldn't actually even sell the tickets. We just would get the international broadcasting. Regardless, each one of these events have a huge economic impact to the state. Thank you, Senator.
All right. Any other questions from the committee? I guess your argument is that these events have it in the rules and so they wouldn't come otherwise.
I would suggest that. I think there's definitely, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's absolutely no way we're getting these events. That'd be foolish to say, because I think that being the greatest state in the union, I think that we have an opportunity to attract that. I would contend, though, again, in a hot real estate market, I'm going to do what I can to ensure that. And I think with the significant economic impact that this would bring without, and I think, again, stating risking a single taxpayer dollar, I think that's a really significant return on a non-investment.
Any other questions from the committee? If not, we can entertain a motion. Senator Thompson.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
All right, we have a motion, Senator Thompson, second by Vice Chair Albers. Any discussion by the committee? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? One opposed. Your motion carries. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
you have a Senate sponsor.
I'll let Mr. Higbee also say to Albers, since I'm going to ask Albers to carry mine, you can object to the motion as well. But Senator Albers is going to, I believe, take care of this bill.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that was 1034. All right, we're going to move on now to House Bill 586. Senator Watson, want to come forward? This is a bill that has been, it was a different bill before and is being used as a vehicle for a couple of things, and you can explain to the committee what it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is HB 586. This is removing or extending the sales tax on nonprofit community arts and theaters across our state of Georgia. It's currently in place today, and we're just wanting to extend that to a 5-year sunset. It's also extending the sunset that has expired on our conservation credits on land. And so that's what we're doing in the bill. These facilities have obviously were impacted. The arts were impacted through COVID in 2021. And as of today are still not all fully back to what they were in 2019. They're all within our communities. They all run on very small, tight budgets. And so this is just a way to try to help them keep their doors open and keep doing what they do best. And then on the conservation piece as well, as our state continues to grow, we need to make sure that we conserve and protect all the lands that we possibly can. So that's what we're doing. Be glad to take any questions.
All right. For the committee's benefit, make sure I explain a couple of things. Start with section 2 first. This is what we sent over to the House last year in a clean form. And I think they added Guardian and Delta and some other stuff on there and sort of made a Christmas tree out of it. And so it died. So I do want to make sure we had agreed with this last year. And the 4 million at that time was more than enough to cover it. I've heard from those that say that because of some problems, it was being underutilized. And so I think we can revisit that if that is an issue in the future. I think land conservation is a good issue. And that's why we had sent this over in that form. Now, the second part that I'm going to talk about, and this is going to be section 1. These are the fine arts, and these do include some that are not nonprofit. They're saying if they're a museum of cultural significance. So I put a fiscal note on here because this bill was just done yesterday. And so if you go to the fiscal note in the package, that's going to be the one for March 29th, 2021. And back on the conservation easement, I mean, the maximum is 4 million per year. So we know what that cost is. On this one, the March 2021 fiscal note, if you go to the second page, the figure there for FY 2022, that is a full year cost to sales tax of what the fiscal impact is. That's the cost of a full, sometimes we do a bill and it's 6 months and it's a year. I'm just saying that the full year cost of this fiscal impact is going to be that first line there, 5.7 million. So this was another Christmas tree bill that had boats and concrete trucks and railroads and all kinds of stuff on it. So that's what the fiscal note was on. But this is a fiscal note from last year. But what I'm saying is I can't get you a fiscal note right now because this bill was just brought in yesterday. And so I'm giving you a fiscal note from last year and say that one line item should be the cost of the ticket sales exemption from last year. Senator Gooch.
Question, isn't it true though, if this law is already in place, we're not losing any money in the current budget or next year's budget? We're extending the sunset out to 2027. So theoretically, it's not going to take any money out of the treasury because we're not collecting any at the current time.
We will continue to not collect the same
Right.
amount.
But we're not going to lose, we're not going to have a reduction in revenue because we extend this to 27.
He's going to be a Honda car
Is that
dealer, I think,
correct?
pretty soon, I believe. Yeah.
I need an amen somewhere.
That's right.
All right, Senator O'Rourke.
Mr. Chairman, to the author, isn't it true as well on this section 1 with the arts that the numbers have been crunched over and over? We've seen it countless years of what the arts produce in the community, positive revenues, draw people to even move to the state because of great, and that we don't compare well with other states right now, is my understanding, with our investment in the arts. So that this is a very modest approach to bringing more support to the arts on the part of the state. Isn't that true?
It is very true. And they're everywhere. They're in rural parts of the state,
Exactly.
metro, everywhere.
Thank you for the bill.
Now, if I also remember on this, there might have been a typo since it was hastily drawn yesterday that might have had a date that needed correcting. Is that a different bill? Okay. All right.
What's the LC number that y'all have?
I've got, 432398S.
Okay. What's the dates from section 2?
Yeah, it begins, this one, that one ended on 2021.
Section 2.
I think it needs to be June, doesn't it? Does
Yes,
anybody
it's
want to
supposed-
speak to this? You can tell us your name, Eden.
Yes, Edens Davis with Connect South representing Georgia Conservancy on this piece. This tax credit doesn't lapse for a full year. We were under the impression that maybe it could start June 1st. It would give the governor time to either sign or not sign this bill. And then extend to 2026. So that would be the 5 years. And it would be the same 4 million in each year.
Okay, now you're saying June 1st and I said June 1st, but actually a fiscal year would be July 1st. wouldn't
But it doesn't need to be a fiscal year just because it is the aggregate amount of tax credit per calendar year.
Okay.
Shall not exceed 4 million per calendar year. So it, under the way that it's written now, it wouldn't allow an application to be accepted until January 1 of 2023. That would be a full year that we would miss this program that we think is pretty vital. And this would allow June 1st DNR to get the program up and running and be able to start accepting applications again. Because
So
of the
then it
extra-
would
yes,
go through December 31st, 2026.
yes, sir. And that would
Okay.
be 5 years.
Okay, so we'll need an amendment on that to on line 29 to change that to June 1st, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And then on line 33, December 31st, 2026.
Yes. So it'd be the same framework you had last year.
Okay,
I make that motion.
all right. Let me see what Senator Gooch
I
had
was
first
just
here.
going to make the motion for the amendment, but you
Okay,
want to do it?
they deferred to you.
Motion to amend line 29 to read million per calendar year period for the period beginning on June 1st, 2022 and ending on December 31st, 2026.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so we have an amended bill up for a motion. I know there's people who want to speak, but if we're going to pass it, you don't need to speak. So I know you want to speak. Okay,
I'm always curious when we have a substitute. Did either part of this underlying bill pass the House of Representatives yet?
Last session.
The easement piece did.
What, and that didn't get into law because it was in the Christmas tree bill that got bogged down at the end. Okay.
Correct. Both parts of this were on two separate bills. One of them got Christmas tree and actually passed, but it was just this year. The tickets was just through this year and we're wanting to extend that 5 years. And the other one got caught up in the Delta stuff and very toxic. So we wanted to do something else with it.
So instead of bringing it back as a separate bill and passing it through the House before crossover, bill, you waited till afterwards and got the chairman to put it in as a substitute here.
Well, we were hoping that we could move the conservation piece on the current bill because it's in special action. Procedural wise on your side would have there was a process there, but we thought this would be easier to address the problem than that way.
they sent us a clean bill on that part. We sent a clean bill back and then that's kind of when it happened from there. Senator Gooch, one thing our legislative council mentioned, and I heard it, but I didn't think it was that important. But you didn't mention that it was line 33 that we were changing to December 31st, 2026. So that was your intent, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Okay, I hope that clarifies that issue. Okay. 2026 and line 29 was June 1st, 2022 in his amended. So I think if I remember right, we passed out the amendment, but not the full bill. Is that where we're at? So I think we need a motion for the full bill now. A motion by Senator Gooch, a second.
LC number 432398S. Substitute to House Bill 586 as amended.
Okay, we've got a motion by Senator Gooch and a second by Senator Hickman. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Oh, who was your sponsor too?
He's actually a ballerina aficionado.
All right. Representative Watson, you've got another bill, so come on up on it. Y'all, let's get order here. Everybody come to attention.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I do bring before you another bill. This is HB 997. Should be LC 432338S. This is dealing with providing a ad valorem exemption on our timber equipment. Currently today, this equipment is taxed. And so we're wanting to remove the ad valorem tax on this equipment. It stays in the woods. It never touches the road. It's very similar to farm equipment. I currently farm within our state and I do not pay ad valorem on my equipment. It depreciates very fast. And so we're just wanting to try to help this industry out. They've been impacted obviously by inflation with increased fuel costs, with increased input costs, truck driver shortages. We got a lot of things going on in their world that they cannot control. And so we thought this would be a good idea to try to provide some fairness. I would consider forestry agricultural. So to provide that fairness, that's why we brought this forward. And there's a small impact, but we really don't know what it is because every county treats it different. Some collect it, some don't. They're not tagged, they're not registered. So I really don't know how they even know that they're there. But there is a small impact there, but that's basically what the bill does. And we'll just appreciate your support and take any questions.
With all of that, you left out the price of timber, but I understand. Who's that? Is that Senator Jackson?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, sir. Let me get this right. You consider forestry a part of agriculture?
Yes, sir. I do. It's a crop that is grown. It's a much longer crop, but it's still a crop. It has to be maintained and taken care of and is affected by the weather. And even at the end of the day, timber prices are good right now, but that goes to the landowner. This exemption would be more for the loggers within the industry that actually, cut the logs down and bring them to the mills. But yes, I would consider it an agricultural crop, just because I do the same things. I have to manage, plant, and take care of it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And I want to add too, this is a constitutional amendment. So this will be a 2/3 vote. So hopefully you can do better than Senator Summers did on one of them. I think that's Senator Hickman. You got a question?
Yeah, two questions. First of all, do we have a fiscal note on the cost of this? Anything like that?
We do not. We tried to find that out, and because it's some do, some don't, there was no way to obtain that number, and they're not tagged, they're not registered. So there's everybody, some do it, some don't. So we were not unable to do that.
And this will be a county cost.
Mhm. That's right.
Unless he wants
It's a
the
local.
state to reimburse him the money, then I guess that might be different, but,
And the second part of that question is, for Senator Jackson's purpose, the Internal Revenue Code does consider timber a crop. And it also the Georgia Department of Agriculture and the gate receipts also include timber as a part of the gate receipts, which is a crop. So
You are correct. That's
so,
right.
yes, sir.
Thank you for that.
all right. I don't see anybody from ACCG speaking on this one. Is that correct? Anybody from ACCG or GMA? No comments from them. So the cost would be at the county level. So that would be their issue. No other questions. I've got a motion from Vice Chair Albers to pass. Is there a second? Second by Senator Payne. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? None opposed? One opposed. All right. All right.
All right.
Who's your sponsor?
Chairman Walker. Thank
Okay.
you. Appreciate it. Support.
All right, we've got one more bill today, I believe, and that is to it here. Yes, sir. Sure. What mic are you?
I just wanted to take time out to recognize the former Attorney General, Sam Owens.
All right. We've got House Bill 469, which had gone to rules, have been recommitted. And I know Senator Albers has done some work on this. So I'm trying to remember who was yeah, Ron Stevens. I don't know if Representative Stevens here wants to talk on it or not, but the king of tax credits is here in person.
I am. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's an honor. I'll just take just a minute before the senator takes over. As you might recall, this bill passed out last year out of this committee, was recommitted back to this committee. But this, as you may remember, whenever I presented last year, is one of the most lucrative return on investments for the taxpayer, that of all the package of tax credits that I have brought in front of this committee. Now, this one, Georgia Tech suggests, is a $3.5 return for every dollar we invest on these historic tax credits. The Senate did a study in 2017. We did a study in the House 2016. The program at the time was capped at $25 million a year. To give you some idea, this particular tax credit was used in Savannah. We maxed out it, but the return on the investment, if you've seen Plant Riverside in Savannah, it is it was supposed to create 200 jobs to qualify for the credit. They created over 800. They've invested over $350 million in that facility there. But even more important is everything around it has exploded without those incentives. So for that, Mr. Chairman and members of committee, that is the extent of the bill, and I'll ask for your support.
All right. And I think we're looking at one of these that we want to study. I know there's been a study done by it, but the same people that did that study did another study that looked pretty bogus to me. So we're going to try to get a more independent study done on it in the future. But, you know, a short sunset to continue the program until we can look at it closer, and it may be great. We may double it, or we may say the opposite. So with that, Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Tax King, I'm sorry, Chairman Stevens.
Yes, sir.
My good friend from Savannah. This looks like some mighty good work. And I understand, you know, being from Savannah and visiting Plant Riverside, I know the good work that a tax credit does. But could you look at section 2? Can you explain to me section 2 in this bill?
Are we on? I've got the.
I'm on LC 500389S.
Yeah, let's let Senator Albers explain that part.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'll explain the updated bill. First, I want to commend Chairman Stevens, who's done tremendous work on these efforts. And I hope I'm the tax return on investment and study king in order to help out on those as well. Back in 2017, Chairman Stevens is absolutely correct. This was measured. That was 5 years ago. And I think that was part of the question that our chairman here brought up, is to remeasure it. So there are three components of this bill. One is for commercial historic structures. One is for residential historic structures. And another one is for the video gaming tax credit. It's been the posture of this Senate that we want to measure all of our tax credits to make sure there's a return on investment. And then based on that, we like to make them no more than 5 years. So we continually have a process in place to measure them, to make sure the people's money, which is what we have, is getting that proper return on investment. So what has been done in this bill is each one of these has a 2-year sunset, which will give us time. We have per Senate Bill 6 last year, both the House Ways and Means Chairman, as well as our Chairman Huffstetler, can each pick 5 tax credits in order to study. He has committed that these will be some of the ones that we're going to study. And as mentioned, come back next year. I'd be glad to work with Chairman Stevens or anyone else that if they come back favorably, to extend them for up to 5 years. So this is our traditional fiscal policy here in the state Senate, and just keeping it consistent.
All right, does that answer your questions?
It does, Mr. Chairman. I just know, speaking from coastal Georgia, Savannah, Chatham County's made great strides when it comes to the film industry, and the video and digital production industry has made great strides due to tax credits. And I applaud you, Chairman Stevens, for being on the forefront of that.
Senator Cowser.
Chairman, I know this original bill was for that specific development there in Savannah, the rehabilitation of the historic structure, the commercial property. That's been accomplished now. So why do we still need this tax credit? I mean, you checked that box. Is this for some other specific structure, or just anybody that has an idea?
I'm thinking anybody that's got a large project that needs to a little help, if you will. There was, especially when it comes to mitigating these things, that ought to be able to step up to the plate and save these things from demolition through neglect. And that was what was happening in Savannah. And I'm glad you brought that up. As you might recall, that area was a brownfield. It was going to be very expensive to go in and just clean it up because it was an old electric company with coal. They took that on, they mitigated it with the tax incentive that we gave them. And maybe that becomes part of the bill, is that there is the mitigating part. But there are other places in the state that could use that credit if they're strictly for the mitigation piece.
All right, Senator Orrock.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I represent a district that has some incredible things that didn't get burned right by the Great War between the states. But I have incredible structures that are, if we don't have this, they don't get the renovation that they deserve. They're part of our history. And I know that the Representative Houston from down in Nashville has downtowns that have facilities that will just stay in a shambles unless there's a pathway to use these tax credits to bring them back to life. And it's about bringing back small towns and rural areas. It's about preserving incredible mansions in our beautiful cities, both commercial and non-commercial. And I just, I've never seen it as a solo thing for one project somewhere. It's being utilized all over the state, to my knowledge.
And to further, if you will, back on the mitigation piece again, especially in your area, if the original project on this area, speaking of the cost versus just tearing it down, was supposed to be $230 million. It wound up being $350 million. So this small incentive to restore and keep these projects made the difference in that project doing anything at all.
All right, any other questions by the committee? If not, we can entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to pass by committee substitute House Bill 469 LC 500389S.
Second by Senator Thompson. Any more discussion by the members? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I recommend striking section 2 off of LC 500389S.
let's go here and look at this and see what we're striking.
Page 9.
Okay,
Strike this
we've got
section.
a substitute motion. Is that precedence? Okay, so we've got, yeah, really, we say motion to amend. You're correct. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, we've got a second. Now let's discuss it.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Again, the posture of this Senate is we do not let tax credits go in perpetuity. We measure them. This is making sure that over 2 years' time, we'll measure that tax credit like we do everything else now. If it comes back favorably, there's no reason why we wouldn't extend it for 5 years or make it even more so. But being good fiduciaries, and if this credit is so good, then we should be happy to measure it and know what the return is.
All right, Senator Gooch.
Clarification. If we strike section 2, we're not extending it at all. So we still have another year if we do nothing.
Right.
So it was a 3-year sunset. You're trying to make it a 2-year sunset? But the previous bill we just passed had a 5-year sunset, right?
Section 2 is a different piece of language. And right now, it has no sunset.
But you're creating a shorter sunset than traditional because it's in its second year.
No, it's been going on for quite some time. It's been going on for quite some time. We're going to give it 2 years to give time to measure it. Now that we have the measurement process in place as we passed last year for Senate Bill 6.
But we passed other bills this year that have no sunsets. I mean,
Mhm.
I understand your intent is to be consistent,
Sure.
but I'm not sure we're being consistent. I mean, it's typical General Assembly work, but should we not give the full time? And by striking the amendment, it would restore it back to the current language. It said you're trying to shorten it and to terminate it immediately, right?
Section 2 has no limit today. It will go on in perpetuity forever.
Well, then put another sunset on it, 5 years.
Well, what I think the intent is, and yeah, you're right. Some of them have gone out the longer, some sunset. That's the will of the committee. My preference is not that long. And what we're saying is that this is one we want to study over the next couple of years and then make a determination on its effectiveness. So that was the reason for that being in there. They both got a 2-year extension. We will have a study before then that says they're great or they're not and can extend it out 5 years at that point.
But Mr. Chairman, can't we amend this next year though? Can't we put a tax credit? Can't we?
We can always do something every year. What
Yes,
we're
sir.
saying this year is we would like to do a 2-year extension on both of these, study them and come back and see if these are good programs or not.
But we do know it's been working.
Actually, we don't know.
We
that
don't
they're
know.
working. That's the whole reason why we like to study them. Like
Chairman.
this is good fiscal policy. And again, if anybody has a tax credit that they are passionate about, then they should actually be open to the opportunity to brag about how fruitful it will be during the study process.
Chairman Huffstuffer, isn't it true this program has a 3-year sunset in it already?
I don't
That's what
think so.
that's my understanding.
It's not.
There's no sunset.
Chairman Stevens, doesn't it have a 3-year sunset?
The program expires at the end of this year.
We're talking about section 2.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah, we're not talking about your bill
Okay.
any longer. It's the amendment that was
Sorry.
put on it. So
hadn't seen the
You're
bill.
just, you're associated by innocence, right?
Research is telling me that part of the video games have a sunset and part of them have no sunset.
Right.
This would bring some consistency put a sunset on both of them and give us time to study them and determine them. Yeah, Senator Jones, sorry.
So is this, it looks like there's conflicting dates on here. Does it end on December 31 of 2023? Which would be next year. In section
Right,
2.
you would have 22 and 23 allowed under this.
And the question, I guess, I'm asking is the study committee that you're proposing, is it a summer study committee?
No, it's not a study committee. It's under his Senate Bill 6,
Okay.
where we send out for an independent study of 5 bills can be done by the chair of finance and 5 bills can be done by the chair of House Ways and Means.
That's done every year.
5 each year, correct. And this would be one studied under that.
Chair of finance and chair.
10 total.
And if somebody was concerned that this is a bad credit program and it wasn't going to continue, then it seems like they would want to extend it. If they think it's going to turn out really good, then they wouldn't mind the short window that would say we're going to extend it if it looks great. Sure.
On the lines 215, 216, is that typical, putting in no tax credit shall be allowed after such and such a time, or as opposed to just sunsetting a tax credit that's in place? But
I would think either one does the same purpose. Senator Gooch.
This is that time when you ask, you can call a friend to the table. Could we ask the lobbyist that's pushing for this to come up and give us a little clarity on the current law? Because I understand there's a 3-year credit that you can only take it up to 3 years and no more than 3 years. If we cut it off now, I mean, you're basically pulling their feet out from under them. Can we ask for some clarification on this?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Bozeman, we represent the Georgia Game Developers Association. I appreciate the dialogue on this. There's been a lot of work, as Senator Albers knows, over the years to perfect this credit. I would say it's probably one of the best structured credits that are out there. Let me tell you what the credit does. It's current law. This is not a bill. This is current law. No company can take this credit for more than 3 years or until their game or platform becomes commercially available. So so when they're just investing Georgians, because you can only get this credit if your studio is physically located in Georgia, right? We're not giving it out of state, folks, just people in Georgia. You can only take the credit for up to 3 years or until you're commercially available, and it's on you to make it work or not. The concern I would suggest to the committee on this bill is by doing a 2-year sunset, and the law authorizes these entrepreneurs that are responsible for jobs in Athens and Moultrie and in Valdosta and Albany, Georgia, as well as Atlanta. The law would be in conflict if you say you're authorized to have the credit for 3 years and we sunset it after 2 years and then go through this process again, trying to keep a very good, tight program that's it's capped at only $12.5 million. And the companies that are receiving the studio, when you want to talk about ROI, they're only getting 75% of the credit because there's so much growth in the industry that they can't even take the full credit because there's been so much success employing Georgians. So just to distinguish on the 3-year credit issue, the credit is sunsetted at 3 years. What Senator Albers is looking to do is sunset the program at 2 years. So I would say there'd be an inconsistency that the committee needs to consider before moving forward at a 2-year sunset of the program, while the law authorizes these entrepreneurs to receive the credit for up to 3 years.
So with some confusion, I think maybe we ought to bring this back for another discussion, but Senator Cowser.
Just one basic question. Are these tax credits transferable?
Yes, sir. Just like they were originally, back when Sonny Perdue passed the bill, it was part of the film tax credit. Governor Deal then bifurcated the programs and capped this program at $12.5 million, worked 4 years, put in his competitiveness package, made it very narrowly focused, and put the sunset on the credits for up to 3 years. So we wouldn't have to come back every year, which we did 4 years out of 6 years to renew this program. There was so much benefit. Y'all passed it 4 years out of 6 years. This was when the governor worked through this program. This was his way to avoid having these programs sunsetted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is pretty straightforward. If the program is good, and if there is an ROI, then the program can be extended for a 5-year term, as we do all the time in the Senate when something's measured. But the reality is we have not measured this tax credit, have we? The state of
I would
Georgia.
say we welcome the measurement, but it is a test to say that these entrepreneurs can receive the full tax credit because there's so much growth in the industry because of the program. They're only getting 75% of the full credit, which is a
Understood.
good indication when you study the tax credit ROI.
That's right. And as long as we're using taxpayers' dollars, though, and we don't know whether they're getting an ROI, then that is an irresponsible use of taxpayers' dollars until we have measured those. And then we can make a good decision. And if it's good, we can extend it. We can add dollars to it. We can make $25 million if it's a great ROI.
And Chairman, I believe this stands on its own. We welcome a study, but doing a sunset to kill the program off doesn't really give you a chance to study it. If you have to pass there's a lot of risk in it. You can study it knowing that there's a 3-year sunset on the program already and come back and eliminate it if it's not showing you the results that we know. We welcome this because we actually think the cap needs to be bumped up because we're only getting 75% of what we should be getting if we wanted to let every studio receive this tax credit for the jobs that they're investing. I mean, they're investing a lot of money in this thing up front at total risk. And you've been a supporter of this in the past. You know the program as well as anybody. We welcome the study of this. What we would ask is because there is a 3-year conflict with your 2-year sunset, that you'd study it without sunsetting it and putting that conflict in place for investors looking to make Georgia's investments on these programs.
So you're thinking you need an extra year on it to not have a conflict?
I think you can study it without, yes, at least, but I think you can study it without sunsetting the program that's already has a built-in sunset and giving y'all.
But all of it doesn't have a sunset on it. Some of it does.
I don't understand that. You can only get, you get the program, you get the credit for up to 3 years or until you bring your product to market. Then you can't get it. So if you bring the product to market after year 1, you can't get it anymore.
Well, we may need to table this and continue the discussion later, or I guess it can be the will of the committee. So there's, show me that again. We've got part of it under, I had research work on this. I know.
There's no overall sunset date, but a single, for pre-production, the credit can only be taken for 3 years.
Okay. All right. So right now we've got a motion to strike that section completely.
I got a substitute motion.
Okay, so we've got an amendment to the amendment.
On line 215, make 2024, 2025. And on line 221, make it 2024. That'll give him the 3 years that he desires. And if we truly believe that it comes back favorably, then nobody will be potentially harmed. And if it doesn't, then we will summarily end it.
Okay, we've got a motion to amendment. The amendment, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a second.
Yeah.
All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand.
This amendment to the amendment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So do we need to do the amendment as a whole now, I guess?
Yes.
So now the full amendment is up.
I'll make the motion.
So we have not struck the amendment now, correct? Because
Correct.
we amended it and just changed that. So now we're back into the amended. So all in favor of that, raise your hand. we have, instead of striking that section, Senator Albers has said, let's put some longer dates on it. And so that's what,
Right. And now we're voting on the substitute to House Bill 469.
no, we've still got to do the full amendment.
Yeah, okay.
The amended, correct? We still have to, we've got amendment 1 and 1A. Okay. So we've got the amended amendment up for a vote now. The first amendment was, hang on. The first amendment was to strike it completely. We amended it, say we don't strike it, but we changed the dates on it. So the full amendment has now been changed to those dates. So that's that if we vote for the amendment. So now we're up for the full amendment. All in favor of the full amendment, raise your hand. Okay, look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Were any of y'all?
You're gonna have to.
No, he changed that. He subbed it out to not strike it, but just change the lines in it.
What amendment are we voting for?
And I'll check again with Ledge Council to be sure on this.
I think we voted for our amendment.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry, my understanding is that there was a motion to amend to strike section 2. Then there was a motion to amend that motion to not strike section 2 and instead make some changes to the years. So amendment 2 is an amendment to amendment 1. So the vote that I believe we were calling was on amendment 2.
We already passed that.
And the result, sorry, amendment 2 amends amendment 1. Yeah, so the net effect would be leaving section 2 in place in the bill, but changing the years in lines 215 and 221.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the call to vote, is it for passage of the bill as amended?
We're not to the full bill yet. We've amended, Senator Albers has amended Senator Jackson's amendment.
And that amendment, the Albers amendment passed.
It passed.
And
So now his
Right.
amendment says it's not stricken, but just those dates are changed.
So your amendment's changed to not striking section 2. Okay, thank you.
Everybody clear now? So section 2 is still in there if you vote for this, but with the extended dates. Okay, so all in favor of the amendment as it is, raise your hand. 4, 5, 6, 8 for it. Who's opposed? All right, one opposed. So now we're back to the full bill. All in favor of the amended bill, which is to substitute the House Bill 469 LC 500389S. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 opposed, 2 opposed. Motion carries. That's all the business for today. We appreciate you being here. Meeting.
I was on the agenda, sir. Would you mind hearing my bill?
Are you on the agenda? Did I miss one? You're right.
You called it.
I skipped you because you're on retirement. That's correct. Okay. Let me make sure we don't have to have nobody's in this room now at 4 o'clock, are they? Okay. And it's going to be John. All right, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I apologize. We had skipped this because he had been in another committee.
No problem, Mr. Chairman. I just appreciate y'all staying with me.
So this is House Bill 934, LC number 393094. And this has to deal with T-Splost.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So good morning, Mr. Chairman and ladies, or this afternoon, I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, this House Bill 934 would amend the single county T-Splost. That's to be distinguished from the regional T-Splost and the metro area T-Splost. This is the one that counties vote on independently by single county at a time. Does not affect the regional T-Splost. Currently, the levy of the tax, if approved by the voters, runs until a stated amount of money is collected. Under House Bill 934, the single county T-Splost can remain levied for a stated period of time up to a maximum of 5 years. There has to be an intergovernmental agreement in place in order for that to be eligible. So it would bring the single county T-Splost in line with basically every other SPLOST tax that we currently have on the books. It leaves intact current guardrails, if you will, on the T-Splost. Can only be spent on transportation purposes. There must be an intergovernmental agreement between the local governments in the jurisdiction that addresses what projects the money will be spent on. The county has to pass a resolution to call for the referendum, and the voters must approve the imposition of the tax at a countywide referendum. And if the referendum passes, the county has to report on how the proceeds of the tax are being spent. That's current law. All that is being left in place. The only thing we're doing is basically providing, instead of running until a dollar amount is collected, it runs for the period of time up to 5 years, which is the way all your SPLOST generally work. This is not a retroactive bill. It does not affect any currently enacted T-Splost, single county T-Splost. It would just affect ones that are called or that the county calls by resolution after the effective date of the act. So it would basically, it stops sort of almost like a child cutting a light switch on and off, where you collect it and it stops, and then they call another referendum and it gets imposed again, and then it stops, and it would just stay in place for the full 5 years, and counties could plan a little better. So that's basically the bill, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to answer any questions the committee might have.
So a regular SPLOST can be for up to 5 years. I know you're saying 5 years, but it's up to 5 years.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying that if they go over the money, that they continue on for, say they did a 3 year, they continue on.
They would continue for the 5 year, up to the 5 year period,
Okay.
just like every other SPLOST.
And I'll get ACCG up here because that rule wasn't always that way. So I want to get some clarification on that. Senator Cowser.
I just don't get this because generally speaking, there's a project that you want to build. And you get an estimate what that's going to cost. And you then have your voters vote on it. That's the project they want, and they're going to collect taxes until that amount is collected. You're now letting there be excess money collected with no project designated. If I'm the taxpayer and I want the road from, here to there, I don't want to be continuing paying taxes once that's been enough money to build that road's been done. This seems like you're creating a slush fund with no designated purpose, and the voters are now just agreeing to give the local government money to be used on whatever the heck they want it to after they've built that project.
Well, that's not exactly true, Senator. That they would still have to use it only for transportation projects, and they would have to delineate what those projects are in the intergovernmental agreement. My understanding is they don't necessarily have to specify a specific road, or they could specify a priority of roads they could work toward, but it would have to be used for resurfacing or paving or sidewalks or whatever is designated in the intergovernmental agreement. That's the only way you could get the year to the maximum amount of years. Otherwise, you still are levying just up to a specific amount.
All right. If ACCG, I think this is one you were going to speak on, weren't you? So come on up.
Would you like me to step back, Mr. Chairman?
Good. I'm my attorney here. Kathleen Bowen with ACCG. I really am just here to say this is a priority of ACCG. We have 40 counties that have passed single county T-Splost, and we have other counties that are going out to referendum. This came into play because of one thing, thanks to y'all, Marketplace Facilitator passed. So there's more online sales tax coming in, which has affected the estimates counties did for these. Also, on the flip side of that is inflation that is here. We want to make sure counties are able to finish the projects that they have in their list and that aren't tied to a number that they created and put on paper 4 or 5 years ago. Construction costs are over regular inflation costs too. And for one of your counties that has this, Senator Cowser, know that their project list is very specific. A lot of counties have categories. They might say resurfacing, and then an addendum to that are the roads they plan to resurface. So it might say resurfacing 30%, sidewalks 5%, culverts 2%. Like a lot of the IGAs are categories, and then they have another document that they're referencing of what's going to be in those categories. So it's not a slush fund. They have to report every year how they've spent the money, and they have to have in their IGA how they plan to spend the money.
So the dates that this would be available under your bill, it seemed like you were adding a date in there.
Adding it,
What are the dates that you could vote on this?
there's no election date legislation in this bill.
So what is the law going to be on when you can vote on it?
I can tell you what current law is.
Okay.
Okay. Current law for odd number years, your special referendum options are the 3rd Tuesday in March and the Tuesday after the 1st Monday in November. So you have 2 options in odd years. And the even number years, House Bill 907 passed this session, has already been signed by the governor. That allows the 3rd Tuesday in March in even years, but that only is going to be applicable for 1 more year because that bill had a sunset of July 1st of 2024. So even numbered, you have the presidential preference primary, you have the general primary, and then you have the 1st Monday in November. So for 1 more time, there's going to be 4 options in an even number year. Otherwise, we're going back to the 3 options, only if there's a presidential preference. So most years, there's only 2 options.
I guess
Yeah.
typically what I see, and I was on a commission, did SPOS, one of them was for the Rome Braves, and I think it's a good tool if they vote for it. But I see people try to put it on dates that nobody's going to show up, and it's an additional cost to have a special election. I guess my preference is that they're done in November with the general stuff, or maybe in the year of a primary with when the primary is.
Well, so the county has to pay for the elections, right? So if they're going to call for the referendum, they're paying for it. So hopefully they're picking the date where, obviously, if they're calling for this referendum, they want it to pass. So they're having to pay for the election, and they're going to pick the date where they want it to pass.
Yeah, no, I agree. The county or the city or the school board's paying for it, but the people that live there also, I mean, they're the ones ultimately paying for it. That's just a question I've got. And we went over 4 o'clock today, and I was trying to get everything I could. So we'll hear it today and, and look at it. There's been too many committee members that had to go on to other meetings to vote on this today. That's a proposal to the committee. Anything else either one of you want to say? Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, this bill does not affect the dates on which you would hold the election. That was Tyler Paul Smith's bill. And it was only for a temporary period of time. This just simply addresses the manner in which the tax would be levied.
All right. Any questions by the committee members here? Okay, Senator Orr.
It's late in the day, but you did make the point that I think should be strongly considered in weighing this, that the costs are, we're in a mercurial climate where things that were projected several years ago are now taking the hit on inflation and now taking the hit on and the construction materials and costs that you pointed out. So I think we need to be very mindful of, I know I'm in a big city. We have massive transportation needs. You've got the whole new creating safe ways for people to it's a transit, not in a car, but on a bike, on this and that and the other, these scooters and all that. And so there's just massive transportation needs in most, I think, in all parts of the state. And I see this as a step in the right direction to get us in a posture to meet those. And the public is calling for it.
Correct. There's never going to be enough money for transportation projects.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. And I'm talking about 20 years ago when I was a commissioner, when we would do a SPOS, if you hit the money amount that you had put out there, then it would end the next quarter. So you might get a couple of months more, but it would, whatever the next quarter was, it would end. Do we know when that law changed, or do you know anything about
Clint
that?
seems to know.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
The law was changed back in 2004. The reason it was changed, so you're right, the original SPOS law said when the estimate was reached or the time frame, whichever came first, it terminated. The reason it was changed back in 2004, there was a negotiation between GMA and ACCG because back then counties did not have to include cities in the SPOS referendum. We do have to include cities now under a default formula, but we would prefer that they have an intergovernmental agreement. So the incentive for the intergovernmental agreement between the county and the city was now you can, on a regular SPOS, you can go the full time period, and they up the time period from 5 years to 6 years. So with a regular SPOS, unlike T-SPOS where you can only go 5 years, regular SPOS, you can go 6 years and you can go the full time period if you have an intergovernmental agreement. So with the T-SPOS that we're talking about here, same thing, only if you have an intergovernmental agreement with your cities could you go the full 5 years. Again, you can't go 6 years like the regular SPOS, but it would mirror SPOS from the standpoint that you can go the full time period. So retailers can plan, so local governments can plan their referendums and they can decide, when they start another one without having to take it on and off. And the
All right.
categories.
Senator Cowser.
Are these various types of local option sales taxes taxed or assessed on groceries? The state sales tax is not on groceries, local taxes are. How about these SPOS?
T-SPOS is not. The other SPOS, so your regular local option sales taxes, I think before 1994, there was a date cut off there. They tax groceries. Your regular SPOS taxes groceries.
T-SPOS taxes. groceries.
Okay, T-SPOS taxes groceries,
Yes.
but fuel's exempt, right?
Correct.
There's some differences in the tax base on T-SPOS and regular SPOS. I think it's just motor fuel
Automobiles, like the.
and automobiles. Yes.
Normal local SPOS, education SPOS, transportation SPOS are assessed on groceries.
Yes, there's a couple exceptions for some SPOS laws passed after a certain date, and I believe the homestead option sales tax that a few places have. There's a few exceptions, but most of them do apply to food.
Okay.
So what you're saying is when we raise money for our roads, we tax everything except cars and fuel. Is that it?
That's the way
Those are the big ones.
That's the
There's
way it was
six
written.
Progressive
exemptions.
tax
Those are
on the
big
poor
ones.
people that
Uh,
so bad.
All right. Any other questions from the committee? Sorry, we went a little bit long on that other bill today, but unless you need to say anything else, we'll adjourn and we'll put this on the next agenda. Thanks. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.